Now I'm supposed to introduce myself. My name is Scott Ott, and I am candidate for Lehigh County Executive. This is the first time I've run for political office, so I need all the friends I can get. As you know, when you go up against an incumbent, the incumbency re-election rate in this country is something like 94%. Yeah, it's shocking. Now, in some of those cases, it's, you say, well, the incumbent's always winning that much. No, they don't have to. Nobody runs against them. And in fact, that was the case in this county for this office until I stepped in. They had asked a number of people, and people had kind of toyed with the idea and said, I'm thinking about it, and for one reason or another, they backed away and they said, no thanks, not this year, not this office. Now, that might make some sense because I'm going up against, probably if you look across the county, the second most famous politician in Lehigh County. He's an incumbent. He's a career politician who's been the mayor of Bethlehem. He's worked for Governor Rendell as Secretary of General Services in the Rendell administration. And so he's got a lot of friends, he's got a lot of connections, and he's very well known. In addition, for the last 18 months, he's been running for governor, and he just gave that up. So during the course of his run for governor, he stockpiled more campaign cash so that he now has something like $727,000 socked away in campaign cash, and he's no longer running for governor. Now it's just him and me. And so in order to win a race like this, there's only one way to do that, and that is to get enough people who are grassroots, normal folks, not necessarily engaged in the political process all the time, to say, you know what, this one's important. I'm going to tell my friends about this. I'm going to make some phone calls. I'm going to email all my buddies. I'm going to put it on Facebook and Twitter. I'm going to go door to door. I'm going to do what I can to make sure that we get some outsiders into office, some people who understand common sense. And I'm going to keep this talk out of the competitive realm, because I don't think that's what this is all about. I'm really tired, as a former journalist, I went to Penn State and studied journalism, and I'm tired of how the journalism community has turned politics into nothing but a horse race. All that matters is who's up, who's down, what are the opinion polls doing today, who's got the most money, and nobody's talking about the substantive issues that affect the lives of the people in our communities and in this country. And so I'd rather focus on that kind of stuff. And I think that we need to look at, no matter who we're voting for or considering supporting, with our time, our talent, or our treasure, as they like to say, we ought to look for some important things. First of all, what's your vision for the role of government? What do you see as the role of government? This is something that doesn't get discussed very much, but frankly, I think is the most important question we can ask. Because if it doesn't matter what the role of government is, if you don't ask that question, then the whole question comes down to who do I like better? Or whose promises do I believe more? Who said what I like? And we elect them to continue to maintain the current course. I've had a lot of people say to me, you have no experience because you haven't run for office before. You have no experience. What makes you think you should be Lehigh County Executive? And I said, look around at the local, state, and federal level. We have people with decades of experience who are running the federal government and the state government and the county government and the local governments. How do you like the results so far? Is it a lack of experience that's caused the federal government to be $11 trillion in debt, or whatever the current number is? It is a lack of experience that has caused the state government to be $3.2 billion operational deficit this year? Is it a lack of experience that caused the county government of Lehigh County to be running a $12 million deficit, dipping out of reserves in order to cover the difference between spending and revenues? It's not a lack of experience. It's a lack of spine. It's a lack of a willingness to understand what the role of government is and then to adhere to those principles. If you have no principles, you will go off after everything that seems like a good idea. And especially if you have the power to spend other people's money, you'll go off after. It's a lot easier then, isn't it, right? I mean, if you were going to go car shopping with my money today, it's a lot easier to pick a car that you want, isn't it? As long as you think you have an unlimited check writing capability. And so we need to start looking and say, what is the role of government? And I was rereading again the Declaration of Independence. If you go to my campaign website at scottott.org, you'll find on there, I actually read it on the day before Independence Day, I believe, just because I wanted to hear it and to share it with other people. And it was weird because hundreds of people came to my website to listen to the Declaration of Independence. And when you hear things like, I think that if you stood up in a public political gathering in the state legislature or somewhere else these days and said, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Almost every phrase, every word in that couple of, short sentence there is controversial today. We. Who's we? You mean the collective society, or do you mean you individually? Is it your individual right? We hold. What do you mean? You mean there are some things that are more important than others, and you have certain things that mean a lot to you? We hold these what? The most radical word of all? Truths. There's truth? Well, if there's truth, that means there must be falsehood. If there's right, that means there must be wrong. What do you mean we hold these truths? What truths? To be self-evident. That was the founders' way of saying, duh. It's self-evident that all men are created equal. And that they are endowed by who? Their Creator. What? You can't say that. Not in the public square. Not in a legislature. Not in a government building. But they're endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And that's why governments are instituted, because God gave us these rights. And the role of government, the Declaration says, is that to secure these rights, governments have been instituted. That's the role. Not to provide these rights. Government does not provide you the right to homeschool your children. You were born with that right. That is inherent, a God-given right. So the government can't hand that out to you. All the government can do is whittle away at it or restrict it. And so when you have a vision for the role of government that says government does not provide rights, government can only restrict rights, then you have to ask seriously in every question, it always comes down to money. Is this expenditure of money restricting freedom? Is it restricting liberty? Is it cutting back on people's rights? If so, why? Why should we do this? There are some things where you'll say, yes, we do want to restrict the right of George to take a baseball bat and hit me in the head with it. That's good. For the good of society. And it all goes back to the God-given right that I have to not be beat over the head with a baseball bat. So you have a vision for government. You start out with any elected official and you say, what's your vision for government? What's the role of government? And I say that government is limited. It's a very limited role. And the idea of government is to keep your rights from being trampled on by your rights. That there's a clash of people's desires, and your rights are to be protected, not granted by government. Okay? So then the next thing is that there needs to be a vision for how government actually works, for the things that government must do. Government doesn't have to do everything, but those things that government must do, how will it work? How many of you have ever been to a place where you have just received excellent customer service? I know it's hard. What are we on? Like half the people raise their hand. Yes, excellent customer service. How many of you had that experience in some contact that you had with a government agency? Why not? Why aren't public servants the ones who provide the best customer service available anywhere in America? We have